Welcome to a short introductory video on using Adobe Illustrator to make a geometric tile pattern. So, you are going to be opening up a template. You're going to be given a template that will have a 300 by 300 millimeter blank canvas on it. And you are going to recreate the pattern you've been drawing with Adobe Illustrator, this program here, and we're going to be sending this pattern to the laser cutter, and any line on here that you put will be cut out of wood, and then we'll be able to paint that wood and reassemble your puzzle into this pattern that you already designed. Right? So this is a pattern that Miss Shivik came up with and gave to me. And I'm going to show you how I recreated this. So this is what I've done earlier, and I'm going to try to recreate this same pattern again for you now. So like I said, you're going to be opening up a template. I'm going to open up a new, I'm going to open up a new file. And like I said, yours is going to be 300 by 300, 300 millimeters by 300 millimeters. Say OK. So there's your blank canvas. Now, to show you Miss Shivik's pattern, I'm going to open up and show you. I'm going to drag in the pattern Miss Shivik made. There it is. Okay, I'm scrolling up and down with the touchpad. I can also go sideways with the touchpad. Okay, simply using two fingers to move around the screen. Now, you see here the basic pattern is we have this diamond, and we have a chevron. Diamond, chevron, diamond, chevron down here. So basically I only have to create two shapes to make this repeated pattern. This diamond shape and half of the chevron, and then everything else can be simply copied and pasted from those two items. So I'm going to move this off to the side. It's just there as a reference. You don't need to import yours like this. You can just have it on a piece of paper next to you so you can think about your pattern. You may want a ruler so you can do some measuring if you want to try to recreate this exactly. So over here I have my toolbar, and most important things on my toolbar for this project are my selection tool, which can be accessed by hitting V. It's a fast way to get to it. And my shapes tool right here. So I click on the shapes tool, I can see that I have many options for shapes. So some of you may be doing more complicated shapes, and the polygon tool is a great tool. I'm just going to show you that very briefly. If I click on the polygon tool, now to make a shape I can either click and drag like so, and you see I got a width and a height that's going, as I move this thing around, the width and height varies. That is one way to create a shape. I'm going to hit V, select that, delete it. The other way to create a shape is I'm going to go back to my polygon tool. If I click, and it's going to say, oh, what do you want your radius to be? And how many sides do you want? So some of you may have, complicated shapes, and you may say, oh, I want a 6-sided 50 millimeter, right? Shape, like so. But that's not necessary for this, so I'm going to go back to that rectangle tool. And I'm going to create a rectangle. Now, this is a picture, an image, so I'm going to try to create it, it's not to scale. So I'm going to try to create it to the scale that Miss Shivik had envisioned here. Okay? So I'm going to click, and I'm going to say, oh, I'm going to make a 60 by 60 square. Click. Okay, now saying that's great, but that is not on its side. Now I could just go down here, I could select it, go down here, and you can see, oh, it's giving me this option. If I'm hovering over the corner here, it's giving me the option to rotate. The problem with this rotate tool is it is very fiddly. Right? I'm not going to be able to rotate it necessarily exactly like I'd like to. So I would rather, I'm going to hit Command Z there, I'd rather right click on it or control click. So if I control click, I get this drop down menu. Towards the bottom here I see I've got transform. And in that transform menu, I've got rotate. So I'll click there. And in this case, I do want to rotate it 45 degrees. So it's already been typed in there, but it usually says 0 the first time you open it. So I type in 45, hit OK. Now I've rotated it exactly 45 degrees, so it's exactly as I want it oriented, just like the pattern over here. Now we need to draw the chevron, or half of this chevron shape. We need to really draw this part of it. So I want to be able to, because Ms. Shivik has drawn these as separate tiles, I don't want to draw this whole shape. I want to only draw half of it so these can be cut as separate tiles. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to go to the line tool. Now I could try to make a shape and drag the shape into the proper chevron shape, but I'm actually just going to use the line tool to recreate this chevron shape. I'm going to draw 4 lines and then join it together into a final shape. So I'll go to line tool, click on the line tool, and first thing I'm going to copy this line. So I've simply clicked and now I'm dragging, click and drag, and notice I'm getting something that says anchor. So when I clicked, so I'm going to do that once again down here. I hover over the anchor, click, drag, and then it says anchor again. I know, you can even say there, it says 60 millimeters at 45 degrees. So I know I'm making a line that's exactly the same as the line I'm drawing on top of. Click there. I'm going to go back to my selection tool, hitting V. You can see that I've got these. I've got a line. I'm going to drag it off of there, and a line that match exactly to this line. Same length, same angle. Now, so I can bring these up here, and these are so this is the top and the bottom of my chevron. So now I'm going to go back to my line tool. I'm going to hover over there. See, oh, look, I have anchor. I'm going to go up. Now I'm going to go up 30 millimeters. Oh, see now, getting exactly 30 millimeters this way is really difficult. It's at 90 degrees, which is what I want. And it locks to that. See, it wants to click into that position. But giving exactly 30 is going to be hard. So I'm going to just let it click there. And then I'm going to go up here and you can see, oh, I was close to 30. So here's my width, which is 0, it's a line, and my height, which is 30.692. So I'm going to click on there, and I'm going to simply make it 30, hit return. And now I know my line is exactly 30. Go back over here. I'm going to click on my line again, copy it, paste it, bring it over here, and I'm going to be using all these green lines that keep appearing are amazing. They tell you, you can see there, that when I drag down here, oh, it's saying those 2 lines intersect. I'm going to show you that out here. So show you that down here again. So I've got this line. I want to bring it in, and I want it to be exactly on top of those 2 corners. I want them to meet exactly. So I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit more so you can see. But to zoom, I'm holding down Alt and using 2 fingers to zoom in and out. So if I push away from the paper, from the screen, or towards the screen, I can zoom in and out. So I'm going to do this again. I'm going to bring this down. You can see, oh, if I get those 2 corners exactly on top of one another, I get this indicator that says intersect. That's really important. If I have any gaps, if I don't get them exactly lined up, and I repeat my pattern, everything's going to be wonky. So it's really important that I get these exactly lined up. You have to be very, very careful. I'm going to zoom back out here a little bit. So I'm going to bring this shape down. Now, looking for that same thing. Looking for those where it says intersect, boom. So I know those 2 points meet. Now I'm going to bring this down and whammo. Okay, I've now got my chevron, except the problem is the chevron's actually 4 separate lines, which is okay, but I'd rather they were joined together so I can move this as one unit more easily. So I'm going to select them all. I'm going to go up to the Object menu. So this is off my screen, I know. My mouse disappears up here. But there's File, there's Edit, and then there's Object. So if I click on the Object, screen, I'm going to go down and this, there's a dialog box here or a command that says path, and I'm going to go over here and click join. Now, instead of when I click on this, it's all one object, not 4 separate lines. Bring this over, I'm going to place it using those wonderful intersect commands. Oh, I can see that those two are exactly on top of each other. And this is vitally important. If these are not on top of each other, it's going to mess up our pattern. It's going to be really hard to piece this puzzle back together if these aren't right on top of one another. So now, I want to be able to repeat this pattern. I've got chevron, 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 chevron. What can I do here? So I'm going to copy this, paste it. Now, what I can easily do is take this one and put it down here. Looking for those intersecting lines. It says everything is lined up. Okay. Now, I'm missing the other half of the chevron here and the other half of the chevron here. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to do that control click again. Click, control click. I'm going to go down to transform, and I'm going to go to this command called reflect. Now, it says, do I want to do a horizontal, which would flip it up that way, or do I want to do a vertical, which will flip it that way? And I want to do a vertical. I want to do a 90-degree. I just want to do a vertical flip. Ignore the 90-degree because I'm not doing an angle. So I'm going to do a vertical flip here. Say, OK. Now, it's just mirrored. It's reflected it. It's flipped it back around, like so. Now, if I copy this one, copy, paste, right? It fits up here like a puzzle. Looking for those intersecting lines. I can't emphasize enough how important it is that everything is lined up. If there's any gaps like that, oh, you see that gap that I just left? That is going to completely mess up the pattern later on. Please, please make sure that everything intersects like it should. Lines are on top of lines. Everything should line up beautifully. If not, I will not be able to make your puzzle on the laser cutter. I'm going to copy paste this one. Actually, I wanted to copy and paste the other one, didn't I? Let me zoom out here a bit. Copy, paste. Again, I'll grab things and I'm going to line it up. Make sure everything is square, lined up. Perfect! Yay! Now that's the hard part. The easy part now is I just have to repeat this pattern. This is just, you see this shape over here is just repeated again and again and again and again and again and again. So if I copy this, paste it, if I move that as a unit, boom. Now I'm going to grab these both and I'm going to move them over to the edges of my paper. Again, I'm getting those intersecting lines. Okay. I'm going to grab those two, copy, paste, and see if I can get, oh, I can't quite get 4 on this sheet. Now, oh, that's interesting too. So you see that this is, we can say it's see-through, and this has got a white infill in it. Now, for laser cutter purposes, it doesn't really matter, but for some of your patterns, for example, if you were doing like a cross like this, where you wanted things to cross, and there's an infill like up here, then, you know, part of your box is hidden. The laser cutter is going to go zip, 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 zip. It's not going to cut that line, even though you want it to. So it's important to pay attention up here. This is the fill color, and this is the line color. Okay? The template you're going to have is only going to have 1 or 2 line colors. It's going to have black and red. Probably the easiest thing to do is to just turn off the fill color, no fill color on anything. I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to get rid of the fill colors on these. I'm going to select them all, go up here, and this says, what? There's a question mark. It's because some have a fill color, some don't. I go down here and I'm just going to turn them all off. No fill colors now. Okay, so this pattern doesn't quite work. Anything that's off the edge of my paper is not going to be cut by the laser cutter. So I'm going to delete this for now, and we'll see, maybe we'll come back to that in a minute. So let me select these. Okay, I'm going to copy, paste them. I'm going to bring them down here, and we're going to line up the ends like so. Okay, and now I'm going to select this group here, copy paste. I'm going to bring it over here. Let's see what we can do. What can we do? Can't put it here. Can't put it here. What if we just do this? Delete that. Oops, I didn't mean to do all that. I'm just going to grab these, copy paste, and bring this over here, like so. Boom. Okay. Now, what could we do here? What's missing? Is it this? We copy paste that part. Oh, look, it's working. Now I'm just missing, what am I missing here? I'm missing this. Copy paste. Looking for those line up marks. Boom. Okay, now I can see there's one problem here already. See here where this line looks extra thick? You can tell that I'm not quite line for line. If I zoom in on that, you can see that they're not lined up right. See the pattern. This is what I'm trying to get you to avoid. You have to make sure that everything lines up. So if I select that, I need to move these around so we get rid of these non-intersecting lines. Okay, so we get lines on top of lines. We still have a double line down here. Okay. And look around. See, oh, looks like these two not quite lined up right either. So that's all of these need to be shifted over a little bit so they're on top of one another. Okay. What do we think? Is that the pattern? Works for me. Now, it doesn't quite fill the page. That's okay. I can move it over and down a little bit so it's in the middle of the page. See, it says center now. So it's centered on the page. So there we go. We have a repeating geometric pattern tile shapes that we could laser cut, paint, and reassemble. I'm sure there'll be questions. I'm sure there'll be commands you want to be able to do, but the basics are, here's your shapes, here's your selection tool. If we right-click on a shape, we select a shape and right-click on it, or control-click on it, we can do all these different transforms. We can rotate, we can reflect, we can scale, and that's the basics. Okay? So when we're in class working on this, please ask me lots of questions. I'll be there to help. But you should try to play around with these functions at home. Try to make your pattern. Start working on your pattern. If you run into problems, that's when you bring it into class and you say, hey, Mr. McCarty, I'm having some trouble with my pattern. Okay? So I think that's it. The last step that you're going to do, and I'll talk about this in class, is you would select it all and you're going to turn it to RGB red, and then you're going to make the lines very, very, very small, 0.0001. Again, this is going to highlight if there's any lines that are not top of themselves or on top of their neighbors. We're going to run into problems because as soon as you make these lines very small, gaps will appear if they are not lined up properly. And then you would, of course, turn it to RGB red, which is not an option here, but it will be in your template. Okay, and that's it. Any questions? Please talk to me. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.